Hello! Welcome to a totally normal podcast about films, or ATNPAF. I am, of course, the lovely Claire, and I am joined by my co-host...
Leon. Or Leon. However you want to pronounce it.
This is my friend Leon. He is a friend of mine. He does very good art.
Thank you.
If he wants me, if he wants me to, I will plug his Twitter in the description. But we can get on that later because we have a movie to discuss. Because this is a very casual podcast, just talking about a film we watched and our thoughts and opinions on it. We just kind of dunk on it a little.
Yeah, probably we will go into it right now without spoilers at the start. And later we will move on into spoiler territory.
Yes. So the film we watched was Mothra. It's like Godzilla, but it's a moth.
Yeah.
It actually ended up spinning off into the Godzilla franchise. Like, it's not the other way around. They didn't make a Mothra spin-off. Mothra became part of the franchise after her debut. And
sounds like it's just an idol group, and she just joined Godzilla later on. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're basically right there. It is. It was released in 1961 in Japan, with the English dub version that we watched was released in 1962. According to this, she has appeared in 11 Godzilla movies and later got her own 90s trilogy.
So, does it make 14, or is the trilogy part of those 11 movies?
It's 15, because there's 11 Godzilla movies, this movie, and then 3 of her own movies.
Okay. So 15, okay.
Yeah. And it was directed by the legendary Ishiro Honda, the creator of Godzilla. And okay, just to be, polite, obviously. Leon, how did you think of this movie? Like, what did you think of this movie?
Okay, so I didn't have any expectations going into this. You just asked if I wanted to join in your new podcast project, and yeah, I of course wanted, otherwise I wouldn't be here right now.
No one is being held at gunpoint.
So, okay, Claire held a gun to my head and said, join me or I will kill you. So, okay, the movie. I didn't expect much, and yeah, I think as a whole I did enjoy it more than I thought. Should I go more into it, or do you want to say
we can get into our more general opinions as we get into the spoiler territory.
Oh, okay.
So this is just to our general opinions, and you liked it.
Yeah.
I really like this movie. There's probably going to become a bit of a theme as this podcast goes on. My conditions for if I think a movie is good is, did I have fun watching it? And I had a lot of fun watching this.
I guess that's what my conditions are too. So there are a lot of movies that, objectively aren't good.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's bad acting, or the effects are trash, and I can still enjoy them for what they are.
I'm the exact same.
I guess that's the reason why there's a whole movement that enjoys movies like Sharknado.
Are the so bad it's good stuff?
Yes. But for me, this movie isn't part of the it's so bad it's good. It's actually quite good. I enjoyed the special effects. They aged quite well.
I was about to say, yeah.
I just love movies with practical effects because they age much better. So comparing this movie to a movie that was made in the 90s or at the start of the new century, I think the effects aged better. For example, if you compare to a Scooby-Doo movie from the 90s with bad CGI.
Yes, I remember the live action ones.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a little silly, the effects are, but it felt much more alive, Mothra did, than some of the really bad CGI I've seen.
Yeah.
And that's not to dunk on CGI. I just, there's something good about a man in a suit.
I think CGI has its place, but I think it's better to build CGI on top of practical effects.
Yeah.
Like the old Star Wars movies. Or even the new movies.
Yeah, because the new ones did that a lot. Like, trying to think of a really good example. Trying to think of a really good example of what you've just brought up. I think, it's when it's like on the tip of your tongue here, like you've got the example in your head, you just can't think of it.
Yeah, it's on the tip of your tongue and you just can't.
I think it was something like. I think it was something like how they did Supreme Leader Snoke.
Oh yes.
Like I think, in fact, no. It was at the start of The Force Awakens where she's selling parts for food.
Yeah.
I think the guy she sells it to was mostly a puppet, and then they CG'd it so like his facial expressions are more vibrant.
Yes, that's exactly what I meant.
Yeah. So, kind of now that we're on a bit of a practical effect thing, do you want to go into spoiler territory?
Yeah, but firstly, I just wanted to ask, how did you end up choosing this movie to watch for our first episode? So how did you get into Mothra? Why Mothra?
For the first episode, honestly, there wasn't a particular reason, for like it being the first episode. But the reason is for Mothra is I love the kind of cheesy giant monster movies. You're going to probably notice that a lot of my picks are going to be in relation to these.
I don't mind.
I am glad. And I've always been really curious about this franchise because when people bring up the giant monsters, they bring up Godzilla, they bring up King Kong, they bring up Gamera, and they bring up Mothra. And I haven't got into Gamera yet, but I know Big G and I know King Kong, but Mothra's kind of that curious one because she's a bit different. Like,
yes.
as we will see when we get into the plot, Mothra's not like other giant monsters.
She has her own character, yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. That was a great question.
Thank you. That's why I'm here.
Do you wanna get into spoiler stuff now?
Yeah, of course. You can get into it.
Okay, so the first thing I wanted to say is the baby Mothra. That was really believable.
Baby Mothra.
But it's larva
form. In her larvae form,
yes.
So is it larvae or larvae?
I think it's lava. I think it's pronounced lava.
Lava. Okay.
And for context, Leon is bilingual. Are you bilingual? Do you know more languages?
Should have known that by what?
Do you know more languages?
I started studying Japanese, but I wouldn't say that I'm fluent now.
Yeah.
Very basic. Very, very basic.
Well,
so bilingual.
Yeah. Your first language is German, and you are a master of English.
I think by now everybody should know that I am not a native speaker.
But at the same time, like, you can speak other languages, I can't, and I think that's a skill.
Thank you.
But I thought how it moved and behaved was really believable. Like, it didn't just, when it's moving, it wasn't just like gliding along the floor. It was like slumping up and crawling and wriggling.
It did move like a real lava.
Which was really impressive.
So, should we go more chronological into it, like describing the plot and what happens, or should we just pick our favorite scenes, talk about them, discuss them in depth, or
yeah, I think we should take that latter approach where we just kind of discuss various bits and see where we get to.
Okay.
So where do you want to start then?
So I think it's always interesting how things get into action in movies. Like, what's the reason why Mothra appears, why Mothra attacks Tokyo later on in this movie.
Yeah. Oh, poor Tokyo.
Yeah.
I just want to say that, like, my favorite fucking line in this movie is that, like, they're like, oh, Mothra, she's going directly to Tokyo, and in my mind it was like, oh, of course she is. Where else is they going to attack?
Like, giant monsters always attack Japan, Tokyo especially, and aliens always land in the USA.
Yeah.
US.
And Daleks and Cybermen always attack London.
I don't know. And we Germans, we only have Nazis. But
no, you've got Frankenstein.
Oh, yes, Frankenstein, of course.
You have the German Frankenstein. Now... yeah, so... I think we should, like... So, like, going on, like, your starting point. So, the basic premise is that a group of scientists are heading to, like, a radiated area of the ocean, and there's a group of islands. And whilst exploring it, they find two fairies, and the villain of this movie, who's just an asshole.
Yeah, he was written like, I was born a villain.
Yeah, he just needed a mustache to twirl.
And his name is the most American sounding name ever. It's like Clark Nelson.
Yeah, Clark Nelson. But, like, yeah, so, like, they find the fairies, and there's an investigator and, like, a main scientist. I think the reporter's name was, like, the Bulldog.
Yes, I looked up his name. So his what's that called? Nickname. Yeah.
Yeah.
His nickname is Bulldog, and his real name is Senshiro Fukuda.
Okay.
But we will go with Bulldog. It's easier.
Yeah. And they're like, okay, no, we've got to leave the fairies alone. And I really like the fact that they, like, no, there wasn't a second where they were, like, doubting themselves on it. They were there like, oh, no, these fairies belong here with the natives, what right do we have?
Yeah, They just accepted it the way it was.
Yeah. Like, I expect less from films from this era. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And,
certainly.
But of course, our good old friend Clark Nelson is having fucking none of it. He kidnaps the fairies and basically begins to use them for stage shows, which is just slavery.
Just like in King Kong. The
Yeah.
original one.
Yeah,
And
it's...
all remakes.
Oh my god, you're right. It is a bit like King Kong. And, well, they sing this summoning song, which we got stuck in our head. You know, that Mothra song.
It's perfect.
It is. It's
the both actors who played the fairies, they are actually singers. They are called the Peanuts.
Yes.
Peanutsu.
Unfortunately, they are no longer with us. One of them, Emmy died in 2012 and Yumi died in 2016, but they were great in this movie.
Yes, they were.
And this song, and the natives on the island also doing this song, opens up like this sealed chamber where an egg is laid. And of course, that egg is Mothra. When it hatches, it's the path of destruction. Which,
yeah,
I think that's really interesting because Mothra's the good guy in this movie.
Yes, she just takes back the people that were kidnapped. Like they are pleading. Is pleading the right word? I don't know.
Yeah,
so
they're begging and pleading, yes.
Yeah, of course. So they are pleading to be rescued by their god. So essentially Mothra is their god, the god of this island.
Yeah. And it's so cool, because, as you said, Mothra's a god. It's not a mutated creature. Mothra is, like, actually, like, this godlike being. And it's...
with his own catchy tune.
Yes! With his own fucking video. But, like, I think one of the big things is it's, like, with the Godzilla movies where Godzilla's the good guy, a lot of fans argue it's because Godzilla's territorial. You know, it's his planet. He's not letting anyone else have it.
No,
but
Godzilla's like, I just woke up, I had a bad day, let's destroy Tokyo and go back into the ocean.
Yeah, basically.
But it's his goddamn right to destroy Tokyo.
Yeah. He wakes up one day. The fuck is this? Who are you? Right, I'm beating you up. Well, Mothra's just there, like... There is no, like, way to describe Mothra as evil. The fairies even, like, make the point of, like, Mothra will stop at nothing to protect them, and Mothra doesn't know that there's loads of innocent people who didn't kidnap the fairies.
She just has her goal and wants to achieve this goal by any cost.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe not even any cost. I don't think she doesn't. She understands what she's actually doing. She's just following these telepathic calls by her people.
Yeah. And that makes sense, you know. It's a godlike animal, like... They don't know any better. If you put a T-Rex in New York, the T-Rex isn't going to be like, hang on, I've got to let, you know, Grandma cross the street. And the fully adult Mothra looked really good.
So you mean after she
After her cocoon.
has woven herself into a cocoon that looked just like a peanut.
It did look like a peanut! Yeah, I think she looks really good. There were a couple scenes where she looked a little awkward, and we can get to bad special effect later. But I think for the most part, especially considering how awkward a flying monster is, I think they did a really good job. What did you think about it?
Yes, it's certainly different from Godzilla, like a man in a suit who can just walk around, like a flying. So they had to do a lot of puppetry in this one.
Yeah.
And I think they drew her sometimes. If it was from afar.
I think they did, yes, I think I heard that.
At least for me it looked like she was drawn onto the film.
Which, hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. Like, I know if we ever get round to the original King Kong, they got away with some amazing things with SFX. One of my favorite scenes that is just pure special effects was the scene on the Tokyo Tower. Because I'm assuming they used a miniature.
Yes.
And
they used a lot of miniatures.
It looked so good, like the tower collapsing, the cocoon forming. Even when the army are using their atomic heat rays, which is the fucking coolest weapon I've ever heard. Which I want to point out, they had no issue with using. There was no question of, ooh, do we? It's like, well, let's get out our heat guns.
Just get those guns and shoot at the giant monster sleeping right next to Tokyo Tower.
And honestly, I think it just looked really well done.
It did, and it had, of course, a lot of sparkling effects.
Yes. Oh,
like
the effect! Oh my
particles.
God. Although I think they actually set fire to the cocoon, which I really like.
Yeah.
Should we get into the human characters? Because they were a bit of a delight.
Yeah. So, which of them was your favorite character?
The Bulldog was really good.
I didn't like him at first, but later on in the movie I did.
Yeah, he definitely grew. I found
what did you like about him?
I found the kid hilarious just for existing.
It was just another plot device, I think, to stretch the movie a little bit.
Yeah, like the whole kidnapping scene, they could have cut that out, and the film isn't different.
Yeah, so maybe we have to evaluate what exactly happened. So what we mean by this scene.
Yeah. So, do you want to take it?
No, you can do it if you want.
Okay. So the kid, this 8-year-old, breaks into the villain's office, attempts to rescue the kidnapped fairies, removes the casing which prevents their telepathy, which is something that was brought up a bit earlier, which what kind of makes the situation worse, attempts to escape, fails, and then hides in the office where he's immediately caught. And we both commented on this whilst watching it together. We managed to watch it. We watched it whilst in a call. We both for a second thought the kid was dead.
It just laid there, like just the feet were showing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't moving at all.
He looked dead. And then they were there like, he's okay. It's like, pleasant.
I'm glad.
What did you think of the woman?
Which woman?
The reporter.
The reporter. So, well, I didn't quite get her as a character. Her motivation was mostly to be there, take some photos, and scream as soon as there's a mouse.
Oh god, the mouse scene! I forgot about the mouse scene. Yeah, I agree with you. I think she existed just to have a woman in the film. That wasn't the fairies.
Yeah, maybe even as a character the viewers can relate to. Like, she doesn't really know what is going on, and she asks questions.
Oh, yes. I get you.
So maybe it's so that viewers who have the same questions get them answered.
Excellent. So, yeah, I feel like...
Okay, just so our viewers know, we just cut out a little bit of this podcast because we had technical difficulties.
Yes.
So Claire might not continue where I ended.
Yes.
Just so you know.
Yes.
Okay, go on.
I feel like making her a reporter as well wasn't the best idea. Because with the Bulldog, you kind of get his change from being a reporter who just after scoops to, actually genuinely caring about what's going on and helping.
Yeah, like, at first he just sneaked into a hospital to see those survivors. So there were some sailors who survived a shipwreck.
Yeah, they had a shipwreck in the irradiated zone.
Yes, and as they were rescued, people thought, how could they be still alive as it is a radiated zone and they didn't have any radiation damage. So the Bulldog sneaked in and just wanted to know about their story. So he was a little bit sensationalistic. Is that right? Is that a
yeah.
word?
Sensationalist, yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. But then he grows.
He does.
And I really liked him by the end.
Yeah, he is like the comic relief of this movie.
Yes. And he's also surprisingly good at fighting. Like, he beats up all those bodyguards with no issue.
That's why he's named the Bulldog.
That's why he's named the Bulldog, yeah. I'm just gonna... I'm looking for my notes for some of the some of the stuff I mentioned.
Yes.
We had a bet. We did. We mentioned at one point how long we thought it would take until Mothra appears in the movie, and in a way, we were both correct. Because you betted 32 minutes, right?
32 exactly, yes.
And that's when the egg shows up. Well, I betted 45, and that's when the egg hatches.
So, I think that you are a little bit closer because the egg isn't really Mothra.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not exactly close, as it's just the larva of Mothra. I don't know.
Oh, well, the larva of Mothra absolutely demolished Tokyo. Yeah, I agree with you.
So, let's talk about that baby scene.
Oh no, the baby scene! So, Mothra is in its larva stage is approaching a dam, which is also a bridge.
And everybody thinks it's a good idea to drive directly to this dam. I don't know why.
Yeah, they're going over the dam that's about to get destroyed. And so there's this woman with a baby at the end of her cart. The baby falls...
And there's no explanation why this baby and the woman is there.
Yeah, there's just a baby and a woman, and the baby falls out, and a good 2 minutes pass before she notices.
Baby is just laying in the middle of this bridge that is about to get wrecked by a huge water wave.
Yeah,
and Mothra.
And it's a really dramatic scene because the bulldog dashes into action to save the baby as the dam starts to collapse. But I just found it so fucking funny. It was so funny.
Yeah.
Wait, was this the scene where... Was this nearby the scene where there was that guy who looked like he was eating soap?
Yeah, I think that was shortly before that.
Yeah.
He was this military guy who had something in his mouth. And it just looked like a huge chunk of hand soap. So there were a lot of random scenes, I think. But it makes the charm of the movie.
Yeah. I think when it comes to filler in films, this film isn't the most egregious. Like, even stuff like the kidnapping scene was at least funny. Because he was hiding in the chicken costume and stuff like that.
Yes.
The rat scene was unnecessary.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about.
And I kind of feel like the start of the movie was a little pointless. Like, I don't think they should have had they shipwreck. It's a miracle that they're alive. Let's go back. I feel like it could have just started with, there's an expedition to the island.
Yeah, maybe they could have mentioned why they are going to the island as they are going there.
Yeah,
like just talking about it.
Yeah, maybe it could be like, so why are we going here? Like, oh wow, it's a perfectly it's an island with full nature, but it's in the middle of an irradiated zone. Well, I'm looking through some of the other stuff. Like I mentioned. Do you want to get on to the bad effects?
Yeah, but first, let's talk about volition or Rolician. I don't know how to say it.
Religion?
What?
Wait. What
did you just say?
Religion?
No, not religion.
Okay.
The country where Nelson is from.
Oh, yes! The country!
It's called Volition.
Yeah, I don't think it's a real country, you know.
Yes, I read about it. It's a fictional place, especially made for this movie. And it was supposed to be a mixture of the then Soviet Union and America.
Okay.
So, two huge...
I suppose that makes sense when, I suppose that makes sense so that, they could potentially sell it in both markets.
Yeah. Okay, but the evil guy, Clark Nelson, is from there.
Yeah. And
and this huge city that's destroyed after Tokyo, it's called New Clark?
I think it was Newkirk City.
Newkirk City, that's it.
Yeah, I was so surprised, oh my gosh, that's an American city. It's somewhere new. Because, these old movies, it's Tokyo. It's always going to be Tokyo or Osaka. And to see, the final scene, I heard that it was because Columbus insisted that, So I've heard there's an alternate ending, which you can get onto later, but apparently Columbus insisted that, the final scenes be in an American city.
I think it's better for marketing.
Yeah. And to be fair, I'm not going to complain about there being 2 city destruction scenes.
No, I even think the second one was even better.
Yes.
Because Mothra was in her Mothra form. So, like, she was flying, not just a lava.
Yeah, and, like, there was that tension of the rescuing the fairies as Mothra is on her path of destruction. Like, they're racing the clock.
Yeah.
So, the bad effects. I don't think this film was too bad, but I noticed a couple.
Yeah.
Whenever they picked up the fairies, it's so obviously dolls. It's so obviously dolls.
They did a lot of blue screen.
Yeah.
But what else should they do?
Yeah.
So if there's this different in size, you have to do blue screen, especially back then.
Yeah, and I think it took till like the 70s for green screen. But yeah.
I think
it was
too.
related. I think Superman had a big thing in it.
Of course, with the blue suit, yeah.
The big one I noticed, I found this one more funny than anything, was when Mothra's turning into her cocoon. Using her silk, she shoots down a helicopter, and then a toy helicopter just drops.
But it has a huge explosion afterwards.
Yes, it does. It's like it just drops, and it's like it's very distracting. But yeah, I don't think this
movie
film was
had. What?
Oh, sorry. You go on.
I think the movie had a fetish for explosions.
Oh,
like everything can explode.
Everything blew up.
I was shocked when the chips didn't blow up.
Yeah. Honestly, something I think this film did great on effects-wise is that they knew kind of what I think is one of the most important things a kaiju movie needs to do, which is that you need to know how to frame your shots to make something look big.
They did really well, yes.
Because you either see Mothra from below or from the side. You rarely see Mothra from the top. And I imagine that's probably because,
I don't
they've
even
got
remember
wires.
that you saw her from the top. Did you?
I don't think there is actually. I don't think there is a scene where you see her from the top. Which good. Like I think that would have probably given away the shadows and stuff as well.
Yeah.
But see, I think they did pretty good on that department.
The miniatures, they were really well. I think it must have made so much fun to create all these miniatures.
Yes, especially the Tokyo Tower miniature was incredible, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
And especially
later on, there were also a lot of toy cars.
Yeah, I got blown away.
Yeah.
Which is a really interesting form of destruction, Yeah, she's a moth. Of course she does that.
So sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're fine. Should we get into the ending of the film now?
Yeah, of course.
So Clark Nelson, I'm gonna say this is my biggest disappointment of the movie, is that he was killed by the police. He wasn't killed by Mothra.
It was.
I just wanted to be like, oh, it's just a moth, and then Mothra appears like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
They kill Nelson, and they realise, and they actually like this conclusion. They see the cross next to the sun, and they actually realise, but they actually then realise that Mothra is just a god. They kind of come to the acceptance that Mothra isn't evil. Mothra is actually a very kind being who's literally just trying to get back the fairies, and that, when they do that, it'll stop. And they use they use the symbol to attract Mothra, and like they get all the church bells to play Mothra's song. And they managed to summon Mothra, and I'm guessing they built like a full-sized Mothra prop just for this scene.
I think so too.
Because they have this really good scene of them returning the fairies to giant Mothra, and it looks really good. And they return the fairies, and Mothra goes off, and they return to the island. The fairies are all happy, the natives are happy, Mothra is sealed once more.
Millions are dead, but everybody is happy.
Yeah, two cities have been destroyed, Tokyo is in ruins.
Innocent people lost their lives,
their
jobs, their houses, everything.
Yeah, it is a catastrophe, like, beyond acknowledgement.
Yeah, but I think Japan just is really how I don't.
They're used to it.
Resilient.
Yes. They must have good infrastructure if they could keep surviving these attacks and just rebuilding each year.
Like construction workers do always have a job.
Yeah, they're just there like, oh, it's like, Tokyo's been leveled again. Okay, boys, let's build up another pagoda. Now, do you want to hear about the alternate ending? The one we didn't get?
Yes.
Initially, there was going to be a more budget-friendly one, and I prefer this ending to destroying the city. Because the kidnapping...
You prefer the alternate ending?
Yeah, I prefer the alternate ending. That was never filmed.
Now I'm really interested.
So the kidnapping scene was actually going to go somewhere.
Ah.
Nelson was going to take Shinji to a volcano. And the final confrontation was going to be at the volcano. And Mothra was going to appear, kill Nelson. Shinji would have been fine. He would have like flapped him into the volcano. Shinji would have been rescued. The fairies returned. It just would have happened at a volcano. But Columbia insisted on having the climax be in an American-style city. They actually filmed this scene. And allegedly, they never developed the footage. But they never returned. They never retrieved the Nelson dummy. And locals thought it was a suicide, and they got like really badly scolded by the police.
Oh God!
Because they freaked out, the locals. I'm like, oh no!
Not Nelson.
Yeah. What do you think about the ending?
I do like it. I think it would have fitted better.
Yeah.
Even though I don't quite get how Nelson... So why he would go to this volcano. What would be his reason? But again, this movie doesn't need any reason to go anywhere. They just have mice running around.
Yep. Honestly, can we discuss Nelson? Because Nelson's a bit of a weird character.
He's just pure evil.
So I mentioned this a couple of times in our watching of it. At what point does he give up? Because, okay, there is a giant moth destroying cities on a hell-bent path to specifically kill you. And you just try to outrun it. He becomes an international fugitive in the process. Like, at what point does he just give up?
Yeah, but first, even though he knows this giant monster is after him, he continues for his last show with those fairies to cash in on his fans.
He even gets a phone call! He's so comically evil.
Yeah, and he tries to sue the newspaper, which the Bulldog works for, because of defamation.
Yeah.
Because they are saying it's like slavery to kidnap those fairies.
Which it
And
is.
have them in your show.
It absolutely was fairies. Well, not fairies, kidnapping. It's fairies.
It was yeah.
Ah.
It is kidnapping.
So...
So no, you wanted to continue. He runs away, but when does he give up?
when he gets shot...
Yeah.
He just never gives up, like... Honestly, I would never fucking kidnap fairies. But the moment I find out there's a giant monster is the moment I'm like, okay, give me the officials, we're going to return these things, I'm going to make an apology, you know.
Yeah.
You know, if this film has done any... Like, you think, I'm now really interested in watching the other Mothra movies.
All 14 others.
Okay, not the 14 others, but, like, her solo trilogy. Like, I'm going to DM you, I'm just going to send you on Discord the poster for her final movie. This is from the 90s trilogy.
Whoa, it looks amazing.
It does look really cool.
Like, is that a mecha version of her?
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like a power-up. But yeah, at some point we've got to get round to watching the rebirth of Mothra.
Yeah.
But I think, unless you have more to discuss, I think now is a good point to wrap up.
Yeah, maybe just one thing.
Okay.
They kept a Japanese accent for the whole movie.
With the sole exception of one person.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention this.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it.
It was a weird decision, and I don't know why they did it. Maybe it was because the people who synchronized it were Japanese as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I hope it was that.
I hope, because otherwise I think it's a little bit...
And like, in a similar degree, the natives, because of the picture quality, I couldn't quite tell. I really hope they weren't blackface. I really hope they weren't blackface.
I think they were just a little bit dirty.
Oh
Like,
no.
it was dirt, I hope.
Oh, I really hope it wasn't I'm gonna have to Google this now.
Okay, it was in the 60s.
It
so
was in the 60s. It was
it was a different
acceptable
time
then.
back then.
Dead blackface! No! Oh.
Okay, so we are 15 minutes in, and you just destroyed the movie. Thank you.
I like the movie, though. I liked the movie.
Yes, I did like it too.
Oh my gosh. Do you know who portrays Mothra? For the
No.
person to sue? Haruo Nakajima. Do you know who Haruo Nakajima also portrays?
No, I don't
Big
know.
G. It's Godzilla.
That's a nice wrap-up.
That's a nice note to conclude on, isn't it?
So what would you rate it from, if on a scale from 1 to 10? Just for the ending now.
Okay, so 1 to 10 overall, in context of monster movies, I'd give it like a 7.
In context of monster movies?
Like, in the context
or
of like giant
as...
monster movies.
Okay.
Because if you put this in like a context of all movies, it's, you know, it's Mothra. Like, it's not that high, but for giant monster movies, it was a really good time and I really enjoyed it.
For giant monster movies, I would give it a 6.
Mm-hmm.
And for a movie as a whole, maybe a 4.
I think I'd say like a 5 as a movie as a whole.
Okay.
But like a 5 isn't bad.
A 4 isn't that bad either.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like everything above 5 is something I would watch again or recommend others. No, not recommend. I would recommend this movie too, but I wouldn't. I don't think I will watch it again.
Yeah.
You know?
You wouldn't do it with like all the heart, like all your heart.
Yeah.
How I view it, because like usually I would go off star system, but 1 and 2 is like I never want to watch this thing again. 3 and 4 is I wasn't the biggest fan. It might have been bad. There might have been problems. 5 and 6 I enjoyed it. 7 and 8 was that was really good. And 9 and 10 is like top tier movies. 10 especially, like I can only think of like maybe a couple movies I'd give a 10. Like Soul.
There are
Soul.
many 10s.
God, it would get a 10 from me. Like Soul is a perfect movie.
The new Pixar movie.
Yeah, that new Pixar movie. I love it.
Okay. I didn't enjoy it too, but I think that's maybe for another episode.
Yeah, we can get on that tangent another time. So at some point I'm gonna look into podcast. This will be going up on YouTube at first. I do want to look into podcasting websites, to like properly, to get this on podcasting websites. But right now, we're on YouTube. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. If Leon wants me to, I'll put his Twitter in the description.
Yeah, you can do that.
And did you have a movie you wanted to? Because next time it'll be Leon's choice. Did you have a movie you've decided on yet, or is that gonna be a surprise?
I'm thinking about something like Asian horror.
Ooh.
If you are okay with that.
Yeah, there's only a handful of movies that I'm absolutely not okay with watching. I think I'd be okay with Asian horror as long as it's not too much,
So, I will give you some movies. I won't mention them now. But then you can decide which one you want to watch.
Okay, yeah. And I think it'll be the episode after, but I think when it's my turn again, I think if I don't choose another giant monster movie, it's probably going to be something like Nosferatu or Dracula. It's like something old.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm. So, thank you for watching this first episode. It's been really fun.
Or listening to it.
Yes, I suppose it is listening to it, actually. Yes, you're right.
Well, you can watch it actually.
Yes.
If you want to. You can follow the little... Well,
yes.
I don't know how to say
Subscribe.
it. Subscribe.
Yes.
Subscribe to Claire.
Mm-hmm. And, well, we'll be seeing you next time.
Bye.